Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you here to the fifth race of the third season of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series as we are getting ready to go racing at the D-shaped mile-and-a-half track known as Texas Motor Speedway. Getting ready here tonight for the HyperX 180 at Texas Motor Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, we've had 4 races so far this season, 3 speedways, 1 road course last week, 4 different race winners. So does that streak continue here today, or maybe some of these guys that we saw win at one of the speedways earlier on, do they double down, become the first multi-time winner?
See, here at these oval tracks, especially for the Indy cars, these are almost like super speedways in a way where someone way back in the pack, or maybe who just can't get a win on these road courses, can really shine. So I could see a first-time winner here.
Ended up seeing the last time that we were at a D-shaped mile-and-a-half track, it was Pablo Diaz-Francis who went to victory lane. Actually, he and his teammate, Oscar Gonzalez, worked very well together. So like you said, almost kind of like a super speedway race. We may see that again here today. And the streak continues for Robert Maleska III in the 91 machine. So far this year, a perfect 5 for 5 in putting that car on the pole position. Of course, last week he was able to finally find victory lane for the first time. And his numbers haven't been terrible during the speedway races either. His good starting track position has translated into good finishing results, and subsequently with his win last week, he ended up getting the points lead coming into this race. So it'll be interesting to see if he'll actually be able to get his first speedway race win of the season.
Absolutely. There's just a lot of interesting names here where people back in the pack, I mean, I'm going to say most people would see this as a long shot to pick someone from 20th on back, but I'm going to be a little bit biased here. I'm going to go Charles Teed. I think Charlie can make his way up to the front and maybe just be able to steal a win here.
There's Charles Teed winning back at the short track of Iowa Speedway. And I noticed as well that I think that there's a lot of pressure on these drivers to win early on in the season, because we know that when it comes down to the end of the season, it's going to come down really to who's got the most points in the first half of the season, because points, positions aren't going to be gained all that much when we get down to the end of the year. This is where you got to pick up 3, 4, 5 spots with a good finish, and all 4 of our former winners this season in the top 10 in points. So I think a lot of stress is going to be on these drivers here today to try and see if they can get a win to keep themselves in the championship picture as the green flag's in the air and we're racing at Texas Motor Speedway. Talked about those 2 drivers out of Nikkei Racing. The 11 of Oscar Gonzalez, the 22 of Pablo Francis. You see them lined up in 3rd and 4th as the battle for the lead is on. It's going to be the points leader, Robert Maleska III, trying to hold off last season's champion, Nick DeGroot, who's gotten off to a bit of a slow start this season. Right now, 11th in the point standings, only 2 top 10s in the first 4 races.
And you're going to be seeing this all night with these guys just attacking the bottom. The bottom is the preferred lane. If you have someone up high, you may be able to make something work, but really that bottom line is just way too strong to just attack the high side alone.
The thing that I'm going to be interested to see here tonight as well is if we kind of use Atlanta, where these drivers were at 2 weeks ago, as a bit of a template with another D-shaped mile-and-a-half track. One thing we saw as a big issue in that race was the longer you got into a run, the more that right front tire would get heated up, and drivers that would go to that inside line would sometimes get a little bit tight and push up into the car that they were battling, as looks like the race leader's trying to get around a slower machine. I believe that was possibly the 74 of Paul Jennings, who got onto the track a little bit late. They're able to get around him, but DeGroot trying to use that machine as a pick, and he will go to the front.
Absolutely. It looks like Paul Jennings very off the pace, but here's where it gets a little bit more tough for him, especially with these oval tracks, these almost super speedways as a way. I mean, I could see it being difficult for him to get his lap back if this carries on.
As far as these drivers here today, if they manage to go into a long green flag run, it'll be interesting to see how they approach pit road, as we've got an issue back here. I don't think we have a caution, but Eric Peterson on the 36. Out. Yes, caution is out. As now the 36 is stalled on the front straightaway, gets it refired. Eric Peterson with an issue, I can only assume possibly out of turn 4, and it made its way onto the front straightaway. We were told that it's a little bit light. Those cars get a little bit light out of the turn 4 exit. That might have been the case here for our first caution of the day.
He may have gotten a little help there.
Take a look and see here. Eric Peterson struggled last week at the road course of Road America. And let's see what happens to this 36 machine. Back in a whole bunch of traffic, no doubt about that. It's the 33 behind him of Nicholas Winook, who actually got down on the apron. Oh, yeah, you're right. He got some help because Winook got down with the left sides on that paint grip, shot up the track. And unfortunately, when you're that car on the outside line, you're probably going to be the one that's going up into the wall. You're going to be the one that saves that other driver that was getting out of shape.
Yeah, and it's almost like pretty much just that elevation change, just bottom out the car and send it right up to the wall. Really just very unfortunate, but it shows you how on edge everyone wants to get right close to that right white line and just get a little bit over, it'll send it right up.
The speeds that they carry here at these speedways is absolutely insane. I mean, we see them all by themselves almost top out at 225 going into a corner. And so the moves that you saw, the slicing and dicing at the front and then back there in the middle of the field around where that incident took place, putting Eric Peterson up into the wall, it's split-second decisions. And at super speedways, you're able to sometimes make moves like that, and it's somewhat easy because everybody's moving the same speed. But here, when the cars are dancing around, usually that's when we see the contact take place because drivers are trying to make reactionary moves to things that are going on in front and behind them, and a whole lot of space for error when you're going as fast as these drivers are.
Indy cars are kind of one of those cars that are near difficult to drive, and it's not because the cars handle really bad. It's really because the amount of reflexes, the reaction time that you have when something goes wrong is next to none. So that's what makes it really hard to control these cars.
Robert Maleska III, we're going to wait for him to get us back underway here. As far as fuel and tires are concerned, tires, we were told, really aren't going to be that much of a factor, although I still would kind of wonder about the possibility of that right front tire heat affecting your ability to be able to make it on the inside line through the corner. But we're being told that the fuel window for these drivers is going to be somewhere in the 24 lap range, and 120 laps here tonight. So we know that that's at least 4 times that they're going to have to come to pit road. But we saw back at Auto Club in the season opener, we saw a couple of weeks ago at Atlanta, different drivers with different varying strategies. Some drivers willing to give up that track position to come down and get that fuel, but then they put themselves back in trouble in the hornet's nest and would end up getting involved in some wrecks that would take place back there. So it's kind of a moving game of chess every time we come to a speedway race.
See, and that's the one thing. You just need to have one lucky break or one lucky green flag run, and you can pretty much steal away a strategy for this race.
Robert Maleska III, as we mentioned, won last week. He comes in the points leader, 9 points over the former points leader, Matt Wagner, who right now finds himself in the 6th position. Eric Schaus has been very consistent this year. He could very well be one of the next drivers to find victory lane with just how consistent he's been, but he's 27 points back, 3rd in the point standings. Alexander Van de Sant, 28 back in 4th, and Craig Forsyth, who ended off last season in the Indy 500 with a victory, he's tied for 5th with Victor Santos. They're 33 points back, respectively. Charles Teed, our Iowa winner, is currently 7th. Oscar Gonzalez, who did not take part in last week's race at Road America, subsequently dropped 6 spots in the standings to 8th. George Anzaldo and Pablo Diaz-Francis, our winner from Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, they are the top 10, 58 points separating the top 10 in the standings right now. And when you consider just how much racing there is still to go, how much schedule there is still left to be run, that's easily manageable to be able to pick up that number of points to get back into the championship hunt.
Really, with the early part of the season, you just need to limit mistakes. Near the end of the season, that's when they always say, oh, if they didn't make these mistakes early in the season, they maybe could have a competitive run. Well, you just need to limit the mistakes early on and just focus on gaining solid points. And hey, later in the season, you make bigger swings, take bigger risks where you have that ability.
And it makes it a lot more pressure, I think, for these drivers, too, with what you're just talking about there, because there is no playoffs. There is no chase. I mean, it's not like you win a race, okay, you get to kind of just kick back, relax, you're going to make it into the battle for the championship. It's whoever accumulates the most points at the end of the season, and they extended the season here as well from last year. Last year was only 12 races. This season, 18 races. So definitely a lot more pressure on these drivers to be consistent as the green flag back in the air here on lap number 10. Robert Maliska III going to get a good jump. But one thing that we've seen at these speedways, you don't want to get too big of a jump, because if you do, that second place car, which right now is Nick DeGroot's, going to get a big toe down this back straightaway and maybe get a run on you into 3.
The person I'd be looking back here is in the third place. It'd be Oscar Gonzalez. Just he's sitting back here, and I'm wondering when he's going to take that giant draft and just try to slingshot both of them.
And I remember back in Atlanta when we ended up seeing Pablo Diaz-Francis go to victory lane, Oscar Gonzalez was kind of the wingman there, throwing the blocks that were necessary for his teammate to win. You almost have to wonder 2 weeks from then if we're going to see the favor returned. 22's already got a victory. Would he be willing to try and help his teammate be able to get his first win of the season, which, as we mentioned, would help move him back up in the standings after losing 6 spots last week? Nick DeGroot now going to go back to the point. DeGroot has been out in front in a number of these speedway races. He was out in front a lot at Auto Club, got involved in a wreck coming to the checkered flag. He was running well back at Atlanta before he got put up into the wall and got a lot of damage there, subsequently taking him out of that race. So it's not as if he hasn't been up in the front in these speedway races. He just hasn't yet been able to close out the deal. But I kind of get the feeling that sooner rather than later, we're going to see the defending champ find victory lane once again.
And it looks like at least a few packs have kind of just broken out here of just multiple cars just breaking away.
Looks like right now we got, 3 cars that have broken away, and they've got about 8/10 back to the 4th place car of Pablo Diaz-Francis. There's Dylan Moskowitz in the 3, another driver that we did not see at the road course race last week rather. And we're going to see that during the course of this year too. There are drivers that are more comfortable at the speedway races than they are at the road courses, and vice versa. Drivers that really like the road courses rather than the speedway races. So some drivers full-time, some drivers part-time, depending on which configuration of track that they're at.
And just you look through all out the track, and there's just battles for every position. I mean, look at the battle for 4th right now. You've got 3 wide behind Pablo over there. You can go 3 wide in one corner, but next corner it's all single file. I mean, they just all spread out. It's awesome.
Battle back here for 7th place. Eric Schaus in the 72, trying to get around the 24 of Victor Santos. Way up there on the top side is Matt Wagner. And, you talked about the fact that these drivers, they're going to be vying for the inside line. Is it possible here? Because, we talked about this. Oh, I think we had trouble back here. AJ Hobson. Yep, caution's out. Up and into the inside wall goes Hobson, as well as I believe that's the 50 of David Leclerc. So caution's going to fly for the second time here tonight at Texas.
Oh,
big
no.
Contact
like
there is the 63. Yeah, 63 was up and into the air there after getting to that inside wall. A lot of damage for him. Let's take a look and see what happened here. We'll get back to that point. I was going to ask you about the track surface here at this Texas Motor Speedway, and oh my goodness, wow. Yeah, we had some airborne cars down the back straightaway.
And just flips over. But him wrecking out of 2 does bring a very interesting point, because when you're exiting 1 and 2, or around the middle of 1 and 2, there's usually a bump there, at least on the old Texas track, where it will unsettle the car if you hit it in a certain angle. So it looks like he may have just hit it or overdrove it into the corner and fortunately just tagged the wall.
Now let's remember that these drivers do have 1 fast repair they can use, although I'm pretty certain that every driver in the field would have liked to have waited until at least close to the end of this race before they'd have to use it. But I have no doubt that Hobson and Leclerc, they're going to have to use the fast repair here and now, as we'll take another look at it. And that was actually a case of rather than getting loose, just that the 50 never turned off the corner. And if I remember correctly, he had this same issue, did Leclerc, back at Auto Club, where he kept going up, getting really, really too much speed off corner exit off of turn 4 and hitting the outside wall. So break there for both of those drivers. As I said, they'll probably be able to use their fast repairs, but they will be losing a lot of track position and not have a fast repair to fall back on if they get involved in an incident later on in this race. But while they're under pace, and I want to go back to the question I was going to ask you here just before that caution came out, because these drivers here tonight, they're at the Legacy Texas Motor Speedway. Just visually, it's looking very much like the track surface of what they would have had to have dealt with at Atlanta, a somewhat worn out surface. So We saw drivers like the 99 of Matt Wagner going up to that second groove and trying to see if something would work there. Is there a possibility? Is there a way that this surface could get enough rubber up there for a second line to actually work to make passes later on?
It could, but it could not do it without help. You're going to need help up there, and really the lead driver is going to be losing out. So I don't foresee that becoming a second groove. The new Texas track is more of a progressive banking, so it's a little bit softer up there where I could see more people trying to run. But really, with the bottom line just being so strong here, I just don't see very many guys running up top.
Looking like the 50 of David Leclerc, he would have been able, I believe, to get a faster pair and get back out there, but it looks like he's going to be our first retiree of the race. So a tough break there as he didn't even make it to the 20th lap. Update on a couple of other drivers here in the first 20 laps that have encountered some issues. Craig Forsyth is currently 1 lap down in the 27 machine, currently scored 29th place. George Anzaldo is currently 2 laps down. I'm not certain what happened with him. Looked like he had an extended stay on pit road, maybe during that last green flag run. He's currently 31st, and Todd Schneider in the 86 is right now 9 laps down. He spent about 5 minutes on pit road a few laps ago, currently in the 32nd position. So a couple of drivers here with some early issues to start out this race. Charles Teed,
and this is really where
the race leader here. All right. Like Charles Teed was the only driver to stay out under this caution. And nope, correction. He stayed out along with Eric Peterson and Jim Herrick. Peterson and Herrick actually were on pit road 12 and 13 laps ago, respectively. So Robert Maleska III is going to line up in the 4th position. Nick DeGroot in 5th. Oscar Gonzalez, Matt Wagner, Eric Schaus, Pablo Francis, and Dylan Moskowitz going to be the top 10. Charles T trying something a little bit different here, seeing if it will gain him any type of track position. He was running up inside of the top 10 when that caution came out, and he's going to be at a huge disadvantage tire-wise because he's not been to pit road since we went green to start this race. 20-lap-old tires right now. Remember, though, we were told that the tires don't necessarily matter quite as much, so we'll see if that's going to play a factor here once we go back green or not. Peterson and Herrick going to be on 13-lap-old tires. The green flag in the air, and oh my goodness, Peterson spun the tires there, nearly went up into the wall as Herrick's going to move by him for the 2nd position, but Charles Teed was on it. He has pulled away, and he's got a pretty good advantage right now, over half a second through 1 and 2. Robert Maleska III going to be the one trying to go to work here on moving his way back up to the front where he was prior to that caution. Take a look at just how these cars handle through the corner as we ride on board with the number 91 machine, nice and smooth with the steering wheel. The smoother you are through the corner, the more speed you're going to make. If you're jerking that car hard to the left or hard to the right, you are scrubbing off speed. It's now up into the maybe 1.5 groove there through 1 and 2. Nice run onto the back bumper of Jim Herrick, and now drives it down to the bottom, close to that white line. Want to be careful there because we saw what happened earlier on when somebody got down there on that white line. He makes the pass on Maleska III, and as he was making those moves, Nick DeGroot followed him right around into the 3rd position. Now goes the number 1 machine. Whoa, we're making some moves back there. That's Oscar Gonzalez going 3 wide with Eric Peterson and Jim Herrick, and he's going to make it work, at least to get around the 36. Now goes to work on the 57, looking to take away that 4th position, and there's his teammate right there as well, Pablo Francis, Eric Schaus also. All these drivers on fresh tires trying to cut their way around drivers that are on older tires, as the battle's going to be for 2nd place to see who's going to get up there and try and wrestle this race lead away from Charles Teed. Saw earlier on our starting grid presented by Lionheart Racing Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is working closely with Dark Horse Racing, providing setups for the 2021 season. Find out more at lionheartracingseries.com. Slicing and dicing back there from 4th place back to around the 8th position. Gonzalez, Schaus, Francis, Herrick, Wagner, and Peterson all in this mix. Is now Peterson going to get kicked way up out of the way. Francis going to get by him. So far, only 2 cautions in this race. The fallout from those cautions, Hobson right now is 1 lap down. Leclerc is out of the race. The other driver that was involved in the first caution of the day, Eric Peterson, right now, way up on that high groove, but running in the 9th position, still on the lead lap. As now here comes the 317. First time tonight we've mentioned Alex Van de Sant. And he's now going to crack the top 10. Last week, a crazy one at the first road course of the season at Road America, and Alex Van de Sant finished second in that one. It's like we got a problem. Dylan Moskowitz in the 3. No caution yet. Now the caution is out. Moskowitz stalled up there, and I believe that is turn 4. Caution is going to fly as Moskowitz was just outside of the top 10. A lot of damage, and that has the looks of a car that may have gone up and over. Yellow flag going to fly as it's like the race leader is waiting for the pace truck to pick them up, and indeed he now will. Let's go back and see what happened over there in turn 3. I was going to mention here quickly about Alex Van de Sant, finished second last week at Road America, and riding that momentum here into this race, now 4th in the standings. We'll see what happened with Dylan Moskowitz over in turns 3 and 4. This was more so going into turn 3. He was battling at the time, but I believe that's the 24 of Victor Santos. And wow. It's like the 24 car never turned going into the corner, just went straight. Oh, wow, and then somebody else got a piece there at the very end, taking off the front wing of the 3 machine. I couldn't tell who that was. There was a little bit of a follow-up contact that went on, and we're going to go on board here with the 24 of Santos just to see what exactly went wrong there, because it just looked like from the angle that we saw with that camera view going into turn 3 that the car just never turned. We'll see if he was turning to the left or not. Could be a case of that right front tire heat not allowing the car to turn to the corner. Here it is, and wow, that's a tough one there, because now when you're looking from that angle, it's hard to tell if the 24 pushed up and went straight, or if maybe Moskowitz didn't realize he was there, went to arc it down into the corner, and that's when the 2 made contact. That's one of the things about these mile-and-a-half tracks is drivers will always seem to want the same piece of real estate. Different drivers have different ways that they want to approach the corner. And sometimes it ends up being that they want the exact same portion of the racetrack, and it leads to that kind of contact. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, with the speeds that they're carrying, you have to make these moves on a dime, and there's just very little reaction time if something like that happens. Just have to hope that maybe you can gather the thing up and avoid making any contact with another car or with the outside or inside wall. And unfortunately, that was not the case for the 3 of Moskowitz. So Robert Maleska III will re-inherit the lead after Charles Teed just came down pit road, along with Eric Peterson, Victor Santos, Covey Moore, Gale Brooks, Paul Jennings, Dylan Moskowitz, Bud Steele, Nicholas Winook. They all came down pit road. AJ Hobson will get the lucky dog under this caution. And how about Paul Jennings, who was trapped a lap down early? We saw him almost play a pick into the battle for the lead at the time between Nick DeGroot and Robert Maleska III. He's back in the lead lap now in the 21st position. So we'll keep an eye on that 74 machine, see if he can work his way up here into the top 10, maybe be a player late in this race. We are a quarter of the way through this one. 30 laps now complete as Robert Maleska III will hit the start-finish line. The series lightweight motorcycle campinggear.com wants to be your one-stop shop for everything motorcycle, camping, and backpacking related. They specialize in high-quality gear that is extremely lightweight and compact, so it can be safely and easily carried to your motorcycle or in a backpack. Everything from the smallest portable camp stoves to lightweight sleeping bags and tents that will keep you comfortable in all climates. At lmcgear.com, they know that you can't afford gear failures when you are out on the trails miles away from civilization, so they only sell top-rated products that won't let you down while still maintaining a wide variety of products to fit the needs and budgets of all types of campers. Check out lmcgear.com and be sure to like them on Facebook. Matt, these guys are now a quarter of the way through the race. We've seen 3 cautions, and one trend that we know is going to happen when we start getting into the second half of the race, the aggressiveness is going to kick up even more. So are you surprised that we're seeing this many cautions this early on?
Not quite. I mean, here's the thing. When you start seeing those laps count down, there's always that clock ticking in the back of your head. And some guys have that clock just a little bit faster than others. But no matter what, as soon as those laps start counting down, the the urgency goes up.
I want to point out one driver back here actually did not come down pit road with everybody else. I thought he probably would, but Jim Herrick in the 57 actually did decide to stay out under this yellow, restarted back in the 8th position. He's been out there now for 25 laps on this set of tires. So kind of rolling the dice. And if I recall correctly, this is something that he also did back at Atlanta. So maybe trying to utilize any strategy he might have learned from the last mile-and-a-half track to this one, as Nick DeGroot going to try the top side here to get around Robert Maleska III. And I think that 91's got a bit of a task here, just based on the fact that we know he's going to hug the bottom. He's going to force Nick DeGroot and others to go around him on the top side. And in order to do that, he's got to have it pinned right down there on that inside line. And we've already seen a couple of drivers here tonight get just a little too low, get the left sides down that white line, and push up the racetrack. So he's got to be very careful, as you see, very close to that white line down through 3 and 4. And Nick DeGroot now trying to get a big run to the top side. Not going to be able to get alongside just yet. Oscar Gonzalez right there as well in the 11 machine, and Eric Schaus in the 72. A couple of drivers that have now cracked up inside of the top 10. The 54 of AJ Musselman. And how about the 13 of Krista Nelson? Now, Krista didn't have the best of runs last week at Road America, but she did jump up 6 spots in the standings to 24th, and now running very well here again today inside of the top 10 at Texas Motor Speedway. So great performance right there right now for that 13 machine. Just up ahead of them, the 76 of Jim Brooks. Jim Brooks coming into this race currently in the 19th position in points. There's a lot of drivers who ended out last year in the Indy 500 really, really strong that have just struggled here in the first couple of races in Season 3. Brooks is one, Nick DeGroot being another. Jeff Hysong, we haven't seen him in a lot of races. I think we saw him 2 weeks ago at Atlanta. I think that was his last start so far this season. He's not in the field here tonight, and he wasn't in the field last week at Road America. Just a lot of drivers that it's amazing how one season can completely change a driver's momentum and a driver's luck. As look at that move there by Matt Wagner. We saw him way up the track through 1 and 2. Got a great run off the second corner, the straightaway speed, darted to the inside, and cleared the 72 of Eric Schaus for the 4th position before they even got to the 3rd corner. Now he's under fire from Pablo Francis, and we got a battle for the lead. Nick DeGroot did manage to get alongside the right rear quarter panel of Robert Maleska III. Caution is out. It's Paul Jennings in the 74 over in 1 and 2. Caution's going to fly for the 4th time today. Jennings, who had just gotten back in the lead lap a couple of cautions ago, was up inside of the top 15. Going to bring out the 4th caution of the day. A lot of damage on the front end of that machine, and we'll see if this was just a single car incident or were there a couple of innocent victims collected up as well. And it looks like this is going to be around the 24 again of Victor Santos. Santos was involved in the last caution after his contact between himself and the, I'm trying to remember which driver it was. I believe it was Moskowitz. And let's see what happens here now in 1 and 2. Jennings pushes up off of turn 4. And then down into, oh, wow. Well, that was a strange one. It's like the left front wing of Santos gets into the right rear of the 74 of Jennings. Let's go back and see if we can get a better look at what happened there. Was there indeed contact between the 74 and the 24? We're going to take another onboard with Victor Santos and see just exactly what he saw. We'll see if we can get a camera view that will show the right front wing, or the left front wing rather, and see about that contact. So here it was. I mean, he gets a big toe down the front straightaway. There it is. Now let's see what happens here. Tries to go to the outside, and that's tough to see. You know, there's just that little bit of a bubble space there that maybe the contact was made. Might have been a strange hitbox area. I mean, it looked like from that angle on board with the 24 that he was still clear, that there was not going to be any contact made, but sometimes that is the case when you're on a sim, that what looks like is not going to make contact does make contact, and tough break there for Paul Jennings, who still looks like will remain on the lead lap. Now, we ended up having a number of drivers come down pit road under this caution. Charles Teed, who stayed out 2 cautions ago, stays out under this yellow, along with Victor Santos, Eric Peterson, Benjamin Combs, Gail Brooks, Bud Steele, Charles Johnson, and Michael Spell. So now we're getting to the point as we're closing on halfway, different varying strategies, and we're going to just have to see how they all culminate when we end up getting down to the end of this race. So we just need to see if we end up going green for a long period of time too, as so far we have had now an average of 10 laps before we've had a caution come out. 4 cautions so far in the first 40 laps of this race. Charles Teed is leading the way here in the Hyper X180 at Texas Motor Speedway, race number 5 of season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break, and we'll be back for the restart as you're watching the Dark Horse IndyCar Series on the Flat Out Racing Network.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flat Out Racing Network.
Lights are out atop the pace truck. We're going back green flag racing here momentarily. Lap 44 is when we'll get back underway, as Charles Teed showing the way. Santos in second. Peterson, Combs, and Gail Brooks going to complete the top 5. First driver that was on pit road under that caution, pole sitter Robert Maleska III, will restart back in 9th with Nick DeGroot in 10th. We saw these 2 drivers cut their way through traffic a couple of restarts ago. We'll see if they're going to be able to do it here once again, as that iRacing pickup pace car will head for pit road. Green flag back in the air as Charles Teed tries to get away. Talked about top of the program, the possibility of will we end up seeing a driver that's won this season be able to double down, become the first multi-time winner. Right now, there's only 4 drivers that could accomplish that. Matt Wagner, Charles Teed, Pablo Francis, and Robert Maleska III. And right now, they are all running up inside of the top 15. Matt Wagner, the furthest back of those drivers. Actually, correction, Pablo Francis, the furthest back of those drivers in the 15th position. As Victor Santos tried to get a run there on Teed, couldn't do it. He now opens the door for Peterson. Peterson can't capitalize. Santos back to the top side here down the back straightaway. Now looks low. Now back to the outside again as Teed's going to defend that inside line. And Santos is going to at least get alongside of Charles T down this front straightaway. Let's see what happens over here in turn 1, though. We've seen drivers be able to get alongside, but then they lose the momentum through 1 and 2. Same case here, as Santos can't quite get himself clear. And boy, they are racing tooth and nail back behind them. Look at this hornet's nest. Robert Maleska III, Nick DeGroot trying to make their way around Bud Steele and Charles Johnson. We were 3 wide. We're still 3 wide on the broken D-shaped front straightaway. Clear is Maleska. That was close. It's scary enough being 3 wide in Indy cars at a speedway, but when you're doing it at a crooked front straightaway like Atlanta, Texas, Charlotte, it is absolutely nerve-wracking as battle on for second, and there might have been some contact there between Eric Peterson and Victor Santos, and that's now going to bring Benjamin Combs into the mix as well. That 4th position car, the Napa number 77. Gail Brooks in that pink and white machine, the number 71 back there, also in the hunt to try and get up here and battle for the race lead. And look at Santos as Peterson got really tight through the center of 3 and 4. Santos with a huge run. He's going to get back alongside of Charles Teed. And we're starting to see now drivers finding out that maybe they don't gain a whole lot on the top side through the entrance of the corner, whether it be turn 1 or turn 3, but they gain a ton of momentum when they come off of the corner onto these straightaways. As it's going to be a dead even heat coming to the start-finish line, and half a car length give the lap lead to the 24 of Victor Santos. Spin in the back! That was Peterson in the 36, right in front of the field. Everyone's trying to avoid him. He might have dodged a bullet, and if we did, I don't know how. That was a battle at the time for the 3rd position that went wrong. Saw it just barely in the back of that camera shot. He was dead sideways before they even got into the entrance of the corner. Caution is going to fly here for the 5th time today, and we continue to average out about 10 laps of green flag racing before a caution comes out. And let's go back and see what happened here. I am shocked that I didn't see more wrecked race cars leaving the scene of turn 1. This was going to be Benjamin Combs battling at the time with Eric Peterson for the 3rd position. There's the contact. Watch this. Nose it up into the wall and look at the avoidance. Oh, little contact there for, I believe that might have been the 9 of Bud Steele. Thought everyone got through it, but not quite. Little bit of contact for the 9 machine on the right front. Actually, that was on the left front. And let's go on board with him. Oh, that was not Bud Steele. My apologies. That actually was Charles Johnson in the 14 that got the piece of it. And go on board with him as he had absolutely nowhere to go. Currently not to pit road yet. Does have the right front wing all crinkled up. As we've got drivers on pit road, we'll document those drivers in just a moment as on board with the Twisted T number 14. Was running inside the top 10 at the time, around the 8th position. There's the wreck. He's trying to figure out, where do I go? Do I go up? Do I go down? He chooses the top side, and there you see damage to that left front wing. So he will undoubtedly have to come down, get that repaired. See if he's going to utilize his fast repair, if he's just going to get that repaired manually. And it looks like he's actually going to get it repaired manually instead of having to utilize a fast repair here, as we're not even yet to the halfway point of this race. Gail Brooks decides to stay out and get a lap lead. And we'll see if Brooks is going to bring that machine down pit road. Looks like the sponsor on that car is Baskin-Robbins. I'm not 100% certain. And indeed, Brooks will come down pit road. So get a bonus point for a lap lead before turning the race lead over to the 1 of Nick DeGroot. Now, why is Nick DeGroot the race leader, you may ask? Because where is the 91 of Robert Maleska III that he's been battling with this entire race? Well, DeGroot stayed out. Maleska decided to do something different. He came to pit road. So while DeGroot will get us back underway from the lead, Robert Maleska III will restart back in the 12th position. Drivers that stayed out under this caution: Nick DeGroot, Pablo Francis, Eric Schaus, Matt Wagner, Jim Brooks. That'll be the top 5. It'll be Covey Moore, AJ Musselman, Gary Corley, Josh Garner, and Jimmy Drynan. That's going to be the top 10 when we go back green. EJ Hobson also stayed out. He'll restart in 11th. Then it'll be Maleska III, first driver to pit. Like he went with fuel only on his pit stop, did Maleska III. Restart 12th. Everybody else behind him, they went with tires though. Victor Santos 13th, Charles Teed 14th, Ed Steele in 15th, Alex Van Desant, Benjamin Combs, Kristen Nelson, Michael Spell, and Jim Herrick completing the top 10. Update on drivers that got involved in some incidents here during the course of the first 50 laps. Looks like most of them have been able to recover. We talked about Paul Jennings getting back on the lead lap. Craig Forsyth has gotten back on the lead lap as well. However, Oscar Gonzalez in the 11, he's currently a lap down in 28th. Eric Peterson still sits on pit road getting damage repaired on his car. He's currently in 29th. Remember, Peterson already used his fast repair in the early stages of this race, so he is not able get a fast repair now. He's having to get manual damage repair, so he has spent about 4.5 minutes on pit road, now 4 laps down. He just lost a spot to George Anzaldo, who is still trapped 4 laps down, now moved to the 29th position. Todd Schneider still trapped 9 laps down, although he is out there on the track in the 31st position. Only driver out of the race still at this point is the number 50 of David Leclerc, who will finish 32nd here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Getting ready to go back green flag racing. They're about to hit the halfway mark in the next 5.5 laps or so. As Nick DeGroot, as we mentioned, the number is kind of staggering if you look at them here this season. 4 races in and only 2 top 10 finishes for the defending champion, as he will get us back underway. Green flag back in the air here on lap 55. Pablo Francis in second, did not let DeGroot get away, and look at the run he was able to get through 1 and 2. He edges ahead going into turn 3. They'll stay dead even through 3 and 4. Let's see if the 22 can get the run off the corner on the straightaway and maybe clear DeGroot for the lead. No, DeGroot actually had a better exit off of 4, and he's going to keep the top position. Battle behind them for third place. 3 cars battling for that spot. Actually make it 4. Schaus, Wagner, Jim Brooks, and the 15. How about Covey Moore? Covey Moore had a great run last week at the road course of Road America, finishing in the 5th position. He gained 4 spots in the stands as a result. Comes into this race 15th in points. This is a driver who had very dismal runs, very dismal results in the first 2 races of the season, but boy, has he turned it around. How about some of these guys back here just in the latter half of the top 10? Gary Corley right now in the 8th position. Jimmy Drynan right behind him in that machine, the 94. And to his outside is the 12 of Josh Garner. Highest driver right now on fresh tires would be the 24 of Victor Santos. He was able to get around Robert Maleska III, trying to crack his way into the top 10. Battle for the lead, back on again. This time, Francis got to the inside of DeGroot. DeGroot on the top side. He's still going to get the advantage off of 4 and lead that lap. Is that bright yellow number 1. And remember, these drivers, we were told that they can go roughly about 24 laps on a tank of fuel. Well, if we look at these drivers right now up inside of the top 10, all of them have been out there for 18 laps. So they obviously were able to save some under these pacing laps, but I would say that we're within 10 laps from when they would have to think about coming down pit road for the first time under green flag conditions. So far, all these drivers have had the luxury of coming down pit road under caution. And I wonder how many drivers took the opportunity in testing, in practice, to figure out what the car is going to feel like coming onto pit road. We already know that they're dealing with a slightly loose sensation off the final corner, especially on that inside line. I mean, how does that affect them when they go from the high banking transition to the rather slick, flat apron to get to the access road to come down pit lane, as Eric Schaus was putting a battle there for second place on Nick DeGroot. DeGroot able to hold him off, at least for the moment. Drop back to a battle again, just inside of the top 10. Josh Garner, 3 wide in the middle. Up on the top is Jimmy Drynan. They made some contact. That's Robert Maliska III taking them 3 wide to move now into the 9th position. Victor Santos looking to do the same. Whoa! Jimmy Drynan nearly losing it there in 1 and 2. And he's going to pay the price. He's now going to lose another spot to the 5 of Charles Teed. Alex Van de Sant now going to work there as well on the 94 car. And now drop Jimmy Drynan just like that from 9th back to the 14th position. This kind of a racetrack is all about momentum, and losing some right there was Pablo Francis. As you saw him wiggle, he got down on that white line through 1 and 2, opened up the door. Nick DeGroot says thank you very much, and he's going to move to the top position. You cannot lose momentum here because it is going to cost you track position. It is going to cost you running order positions. Francis trying to battle back and take the top position away again, but he's got to try and set that one machine up one more time. Some other great battling going on through the field. A good one going on here inside of the top 20. Krista Nelson, Paul Jennings, Dylan Moskowitz, all in the mix of this one. Jennings and Moskowitz, I believe, have both already utilized their fast repairs, so they are basically out of luck if they get involved in another wreck here, and we nearly had one there as Krista Nelson and Paul Jennings nearly making some contact on the front straightaway. Further up, battle going on inside the top 10. Gary Corley just lost a couple of spots. Maleska III and Santos getting around him. That 91 starting to set a pace, starting to pick him up and put him down. His next driver up ahead of him to deal with is going to be the 54 of AJ Musselman, and you can see just the amount of gap there is between the 91 and that battle that could be brewing for 6th position. He's had to slowly and methodically work his way through the field, has Maleska III, and that's actually cost him some track position. As Francis again was able to get to the inside of DeGroot. DeGroot edges ahead, leads that lap. 26 laps. These top 2 and others behind him have been on this stint, and now we got a driver on pit road. It's the 94 of Jimmy Drynan, and I'm going to assume this is a regularly scheduled stop. No, looks like an issue maybe for the 94. No caution, however, as he's down on the apron. This, I believe, is coming through 3 and 4. Looks like he had an issue over in 1 and 2. Oh, no, he's... I'm not sure what happened to him. And now the 57 of Jim Herrick has disappeared off of the running order. I don't know if he's out of the race perhaps or not. We'll try and update on all of that as the battle for the lead continues on here. Francis is going to edge ahead. Not quite clear Nick DeGroot yet, but he will lead that lap in the 22. I see some skid marks in the grass there on the front straightaway. I'm almost wondering if that might have been what happened with the 94 machine. It would make sense why it shows that he was on pit road for a moment, because he would have spun down onto pit lane. I think that's exactly what happened. Slow car up ahead here for the race leaders. That's, I believe, the 36 of Eric Peterson. No, that is the 12 of Josh Garner. And I'm almost wondering if maybe, just maybe, Garner and Drynan might have been the two that got together, because they were running around the same area of the racetrack together. If we get an opportunity, maybe under a caution or something, we'll try and jump back and see what exactly happened. End result, though, now has Josh Garner trapped a lap down in 26th. Jimmy Drynan is still on the lead lap, although obviously way behind other drivers, as we might have an issue here again. Gary Corley lost a ton of speed going through 1 and 2. I thought maybe he had wrecked, but no, Michael Spell going around him. Corley drops back to the 18th position, move back up to the front, but Jimmy Drynan right now, last car on the lead lap, in the 25th position, and it looks like it is official. Jim Herrick in the 57 is out of this race. He will drop at least to the 30th position, Will Herrick, depending on what happens with Eric Peterson if he can get back out there. He does still have a shot to pick up the 30th position against Jim Herrick, but he'd have to come off of pit road somewhere in the next 15 laps or so. Looks like this battle for the race lead has settled down just a bit, so let's drop back here to the drivers on the freshest tires. They're battling for 8th place. Victor Santos and Robert Maleska the third. Alex Van de Sant right behind them as well. These drivers out there on 21 laps on their tires, as that was a very close clearance between the 91 and the 24. Drivers up ahead of them, though, have been out now for 33 laps. Now, a big reason why these drivers can only go about 24 laps. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 28 to 32 laps. I got my numbers incorrect. But the reason they can only go that far is because these drivers actually have a 70% fuel load, which is a tick under 13 gallons. So they don't have a 100% fuel load. Otherwise, they'd have been able to make it a lot further on a green flag run. So with 34 laps now on this set of tires that they've been out there, right now our top 7 and 8 of the top 12. That means that we're going to be seeing them on pit road somewhere now, I would think, in the next 5 laps or so? It all depends on how many laps they're able to save under 1 lap of pacing, depending on how much clutching they're able to do. These two, though, they've got their own little battle going on. Behind them, though, there's another battle that's happening as Matt Wagner and Jim Brooks, they're trying to get around the very brightly neon-colored machine, the 72 of Eric Schaus. Wagner pushed up there in turn 3. That might open the door for Jim Brooks to take a peek for 4th place. Brooks instead going to stay in line. And behind them, you've got the lap machine, the 12 of Josh Garner. And it's a long ways back, about a second before you get to Covey Moore, who right now is holding down the 6th position. As boy, these guys here with the fresh tires, or I shouldn't call them fresh tires anymore, because they've been out there almost 25 laps on these Firestones. And did we have a driver just stuck onto pit road? I think we did. That was the 12 of Josh Garner. So the lap car coming back down pit road here. I believe he was on pit road just moments ago. And so he's going to lose even more laps. But right now, for Robert Maleska III and Victor Santos, why they're battling each other so hard is because they're trying to figure out who's going to be the one that's going to inherit the race lead. And we've got some of our leaders on pit road now. Pablo Francis, Nick DeGroot, our top 2 on pit road. Eric Schaus as well. So our top 3 have all hit pit road together. And this could be where the race is won or lost. Because you're trying to get from about 200 miles per hour down to 55 miles per hour, which is the pit road speed here at Texas Motor Speedway. As now here comes Matt Wagner, Jim Brooks. Others coming down as well. Covey Moore has come down pit road. AJ Musselman, AJ Hobson. That turns the race lead now over to the 91 of Robert Maleska III. That's why he and Santos were battling so hard with each other, because one of the two of them was going to inherit the race lead when the drivers ahead of them came to pit road. And we're going to try and figure out if all of our race leaders are going to be able to make it onto pit road safely without having a penalty. And it looks like maybe one driver might have gotten hit with a penalty, the 63 of A.J. Hobson. Looks like he may have been caught coming down pit road too fast. So tough break there for the 63, as now the entire top 10 complexity has changed. Maleska III, the race leader. Santos now in 2nd. DeSant in 3rd. Jennings now up to 4th. How about Paul Jennings now cracking the top 5? Benjamin Combs is 5th. Charles Teed 6th. Dylan Moskowitz in 7th. Greg Forsyth is now 8th. First time he's been in the top 10 all night long. He does it here in less than 40 to go. Kristen Nelson and Gail Brooks going to complete the top 10 as battled here for the 4th position. Actually, no, I thought it was a battle, but it's actually the 74 coming down pit road, giving up a spot inside of the top 5. So Robert Maleska III continues to show the way. And it does look like, indeed, the 63 did get hit with a speeding penalty. Also, a slow pit stop for Nick DeGroot.
Oh, car around!
And that's going to be, I believe, the 99 of Matt Wagner, who was just on pit road about 3 laps ago. Caution's going to fly for the 6th time here tonight. And this is going to change a lot of things up, Matt, because this was right in the middle of green flag pit stops.
Looks like Krista Nelson's also disabled around turn 3 to 4. She just worked back to pit road.
See if we can figure out what exactly happened here. It was awfully wadded up. Charles teed up ahead. Oh, it looks like someone was coming to pit road. Couldn't tell who that was. And it checked up the whole inside line. And while Wagner checked up for Teed, I believe that was Jim Brooks behind him, wasn't able to react in time, and he spins the 99 car around. Yeah,
it looks like two separate incidents here, because it looks like the Krista incident wasn't even involved with the entry of pit road. This actually happened way before.
Take a look and see what happened there. That was over in turn 2, and it might have been the 76 that triggered this one off as well. Watch Jim Brooks on the inside, might push up. That could have been a case maybe Krista Nelson thought Jim Brooks was going to push up, tried to give him the room, and there just wasn't enough space to move outside. Oh, and then got clobbered from behind. Couldn't tell. It might have been the 12 of Josh Garner that just completely uprooted the 13 machine going into turn 3.
Well, these things make quite nice airplanes.
And it was indeed. It was the 12 car. We'll actually go on board with him and take a look at this horrific crash going into the third corner. You see right here, 13 cars slow. And, oh my goodness. I don't think that Garner even knew that the 13 was off the pace. He went flying into that corner, was committed to the lane that he was in, and I'm not 100% certain, but I think that Josh Garner might be out of fast repairs as well. I think he was involved in an incident earlier on, so that could be his race over.
I believe so too, because it looks like he's currently just sitting in pit road since he did drive it in.
I said under the last run, if we got a caution period, I was going to try and go back so we could get a replay of what happened to Jimmy Drynan in the 94. And I'm assuming, again, that this was a spin in the infield grass. We'll see if we can find where that incident was and see indeed if that was what happened to him. He did manage to stay on the lead lap, it looks like, prior to coming down pit road. Got trapped a lap down because of the green flag pit stop here, but I don't think he hit anything. And I know Josh Garner had a piece of it as well. I'm kind of curious about the 57 of Jim Herrick. Oh, actually, correction on that. Jim Herrick has actually returned back to the racetrack. So it looks like it was a connection problem. I'll now show you the replay. This was a long ways back on that run. Contact between Garner and Drynan through the infield grass. And wow, that was a great save there. Wow, gracious. Great save and a great avoidance from coming back up into the field for Jimmy Drynan, as that could have very well been a caution, but fortunately was not. And now with this yellow flag out, we'll see if maybe the 94 can take a wave around, but we've got to kind of wait and see what happens here with the running order, see how many drivers indeed we are going to have on the lead lap, because we do have some drivers that look like they are going to try and take a wave around here, but other drivers came down pit road and still are trapped a lap down as a result.
Currently it looks like we're going to have about 17, 18 drivers on the lead lap, with Paul Jennings being the first one a lap down.
And Jennings, Wagner, Combs, Corley, and Drynan would be those lap down machines. Like the drivers that took the wave around were Eric Schaus, Covey Moore, Jim Brooks, Nick DeGroot, AJ Musselman, and Bud Steele. So to your point, Matt, 18 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green. Longest green flag run we've had so far. This caution is now going to set us up for a restart, closing in on 30 laps to go, 32 officially to go when Maleska III hits the start-finish line. And we know that the aggressive level is going to kick up again, so it may be a case where we're going to see drivers have to pick up 1 or 2 spots in between the timing of when these cautions might possibly fall.
There's certain people in this field are saying, man, I just want this thing to go green to the end. I've got the perfect strategy. I've got tires. I'm fast. I can run away from these guys. And then I've got the guys in 19th, 20th, 21st. It's like, man, I just need one more caution.
Well, I have a feeling if we hold true to what we've seen so far this season at the 1.5 miles, we're going to see at least one more caution. Green flag back in the air. 32 laps to go. Robert Maleska III trying to become the first repeat winner on the season, but he and Santos had a great battle going between the two of them, which was at the time for 8th place, eventually was for the race lead, and they're renewing it again down the back straightaway.
I'm kind of surprised that Victor didn't take more of an aggressive move there. It's kind of a risk versus reward. I mean, get right down on his side pod, but I mean, hey, unfortunately, if you clip him, you're both taken out.
Another interesting thing here, too, as mentioned, the fuel window for these drivers, about 28 to 32 laps. We went back green with 32 laps remaining. So the question is that the final pit stop for all these guys?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's close. It's close because they all were on pit road about 5 laps ago. So that would have been with 36 laps remaining. If they were able to save a little bit under pacing, probably are good to make it the rest of the way, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Oh, I'd say get back to me on lap 119 and we'll check.
Santos trying to get that outside line going again there against Robert Maleska III. We saw how the outside line was able to partially work when Pablo Francis and Nick DeGroot were battling for the race lead, but now we're trying to see if Santos can get it going, and look who's moved into the 3rd position. Dylan Moskowitz, who was involved in one of our earlier cautions, used a faster pair, now up inside of the top 5, and a driver that we didn't even see take the green flag at Road America last week.
Caution's
looks
out.
poised. Oh, yep, we got a trouble back there. I think it's the 74 of Paul Jennings once more.
Looks like you got a little bit of help going around.
Another couple of slow machines. Bud Steele in the 9 was really slow, and it looked like also Gary Corley in the 7 really slow. Oh yeah, there's that other car you were talking about. That car is all torn up. My goodness, the suspension damage on the front. That thing's about a foot off the ground.
Turn that suspension the other way. We might have a dirt modified here.
You very well might. Let's see what happened to them. This was over in turn 3. And I think it's going to start with the 74 of Jennings. He was racing around 99 of Matt Wagner. Oh, yeah, wow.
It just looked like a really bad misjudgment. It looked really like he wanted to dive it down deep, but he wasn't sure where his left front tire was. And he was afraid of probably hitting that white line, so he kept it a little bit high, but the problem is he ran right into the back of the rear left of Paul.
The thing of it is, too, is when you look at those two drivers going into the corner, it looks like, and I don't know which the case is, either the 99 carried a lot more speed or Paul Jennings might have gotten a little loose on entry because it looked like he was 2-3 miles per hour slower than Wagner was.
Well, you got to remember, Paul's not getting any draft here. While you got... My apologies. While you got Matt behind him and he's getting all the draft, he's getting pretty much all the speed. So, yeah, he was going about 2-3 miles an hour faster than him. But Paul really wasn't running any defensive line, at least not to my look.
No, it didn't look like that to me either, as we did have another driver that got a piece of that, and I think it might have possibly been the 76 of Jim Brooks. No, it wasn't Brooks. Somebody else got involved in that, had the whole front nose taken off there.
Should be Gary Corley, if I'm correct.
Yeah, he was the one that went up into the wall. There was another car. There was an orange car that hit Paul Jennings down on the apron. Let's see if I can identify who. Let's see if we can find out. Yeah, it was Jim Brooks. However, one of those confusing ones with iRacing. There was contact definitely made. The nose was gone for a brief moment, and then it reappeared. So, okay.
Looks like it just really couldn't register to contact. It wasn't positive if it happened or not.
So 76 dodges a bullet there, as he will still remain on the lead lap. Didn't have to come down pit road. Will restart in the 17th position. And this is interesting because you said check back with you on lap 119 of whether these guys were good on fuel or not. Some of these guys looks like didn't think they were, because they came down pit road. Charles Johnson, Eric Schaus, Covey Moore, AJ Musselman, Nick DeGroot, as well as Jim Brooks and Bud Steele. They all came down, topped off the fuel tank, so we know they absolutely can make it on fuel. I would think, however, that these guys up here with this caution coming out, if there was a question of 1 to 2 laps short, I would think they'd be able to save that here under these pace laps.
I'd really have to kind of stop you and ask you from the driver's standpoint, do you even want to make a charge for the front of the field right now, or do you just want to kind of hang out in the back of the pack? Because, again, we still got about 25, 30 laps left. I mean, there's still some time where you can kind of hang around the back, and, there's obviously, I'm going to say, the rate that we're going at, there's going to be another caution.
Well, the only reason why I would say I want to charge to the front is on that last long green flag run that we had, the field got really spread out. And we saw Robert Maleska III mired back in 8th position, and he was running 3 seconds behind the race leader with the freshest tires. So, even though you may have an advantage fuel-wise, have an advantage tire-wise, if you've lost that much time to the race leader, you're not more than likely going to be able to make that back up. So I think you've got to go as soon as that green flag drops to make sure you're going to be at least in the same zip code of whoever's going to be the leader when you close in to maybe the final 5 laps of this race. So you've got a shot to win this thing.
I guess I'll also follow that up with, we've seen a lot of these wrecks take place around anywhere from 5th to 15th place. So, not too uncommon. I guess I wouldn't really want to be in the back of the pack, but I don't know if I exactly want to be in the front of the pack either.
Think of it as too, a wreck takes place, so you're at the back of the pack. You have no idea where that car is going to go, and the speed you carry into the corners, very little reaction time. Robert Maleska III stacking them up there. I don't know if he's backed them up or if Santos tried to time the start, but the guy that lost out big time on that was Dylan Moskowitz.
Yeah, he was caught sleeping on that. It looks like he kind of had to slam the brakes, and by the time he got going again, they were gone.
Santos slicing and dicing down the back straightaway, trying to get a run. He'll get to the outside of Robert Maleska III. And I'm telling you what, right now, just based on what I'm seeing with this outside line, I think we could be in for a photo finish at this racetrack, because it almost seems like every single time someone jumps up to that outer groove, they almost are able to edge ahead by the time they get back to the start-finish line. So I think it's going to be all about that second car, how well they're going to be able to get through 3 and 4 if they can stay alongside of the race leader.
Yeah, just watch Victor in these corners now. Victor is not playing cautions out.
It's Jimmy Drynan in the 94. Another car hard on the inside wall over there in turn 3. That's Gary Corley in the 7.
Oh, no. Oh, he's upside down.
Oh, yeah. That car is stuck in the inside wall, and that's Corley's day done. That's the second straight caution he's been involved in. The first one, he had to use a faster pair. He no longer has any more, and Gary Corley, who had a great run going here today, was up in the top 10 around the midway point of this race. Looks like his day is going to come to a close. Closing in on lap 100.
This is almost a textbook of why so many drivers, they love and they hate these type of tracks. They love it because it has so many opportunities. You can come up from almost nowhere and make an amazing run, but when something goes wrong, there's nowhere to go. And it goes back to that whole conversation about reaction time. There's almost no reaction time to do anything.
Wow, that was Benjamin Combs that got into the 94 of Jimmy Drynan. He pops up into the air, collects up Gary Corley. Another driver also got a piece of that. Try and see if we can. The 86, yes, you are correct. And that actually has taken Schneider out of the race as well. Hardest impact, though, was obviously that 7 machine, and we're going to see if we can get a camera angle to see just the full extent of the impact, as he was the one that the Airborne 94 came down into.
Yeah, it looks like the 7's also called it a day here. It's a little bit too much damage. Hey.
Like, as soon as Corley's car got hit, like, the steering was completely out of that car. He just went straight up into the wall in turn 3, and then barrel rolls down the self-cleaning banking of 3 and 4. And we're starting to see them pile up now in the garage area, Matt. Now, as you mentioned, Corley and Schneider both out of the race, and the 94 car obviously has got some damage. I would assume some suspension damage. I mean, you can't go that high up into the air, land back down, and not have something wrong underneath that machine. So,
well, I'm looking at that, and Gary, I don't think he touched the ground entering turn 3. I think he went about the middle of turn 3 before the thing started to set back down. At that point, I think the suspension was gone.
So now looks like 5 drivers officially going to be out of the race as Orley, Jennings, Schneider join Josh Garner and David Leclerc in the garage area. Free pass under this caution, think is going to go to the 11 of Oscar Gonzalez, although he is 2 laps down. Most of the drivers that are a lap down are 2 or more, and so very unlikely at this point in time that we're going to end up having another driver get back on the lead lap unless we have a couple of quick yellow flags. There's currently 20 drivers on the lead lap. Matt Wagner, the last of those, and he was actually just down at pit road in the 99 machine. So you got to wonder what the former points leader's strategy was there.
Going back onto the point that I was at least starting on, I think you should have noticed it on this restart. That 24 slowly started pinching that 91 a lot more in the corners. I mean, I don't think he's really playing around anymore. I think he's seeing those laps count down. He wants to go. But that also comes from a risk versus reward strategy. I mean, he can easily hit the side of that car and just turn him.
Well, Victor Santos out of Speedy Snails Racing, 5th in the points, actually tied for 5th in points with Craig Forsyth. He's had 2 top 10 finishes this season in the first 4 races, both of them inside of the top 5, but another driver that's hungry to start out the season with a victory. Maleska, on the other hand, got his first win last week at Road America, comes into this race the points leader, but you don't want to run the risk as well if you're Robert Maleska III of, being overly aggressive on your blocking with Victor Santos, because we saw a driver, I believe it was 4th or 5th in the running order off turn 4 at the season opener at Auto Club, crossed the line as the race winner because of chaos that took place in front of him. And there's no saying with the slicing and dicing that we've seen on the back straightaway on these restart laps that we couldn't see another case like that take place on the final lap at Texas.
I'm going to tell you, for the first and second place that may calculate all their moves, there's a third place who's saying, I'm going to send it and I'm going to hope it sticks.
And that right now would be Dylan Moskowitz in the 3 machine. Craig Forsyth right behind them as well in 4th place, with Alex Van de Sant in 5th. And Charles Teed, Gail Brooks, Michael Spell, first time he's been in the top 10 tonight, 8th. Nicholas Winook and Joe McAdory complete the top 10. Green flag back in the air. It's less than 20 to go here in the HyperX 180.
Looks like Victor almost got caught sleeping on that restart, man. He did not at least get going, at least at first, but now he's really pulling up to him.
He at least kept it about a car length and a half, which is what you have to do if you're going to try and get that run down the back straightaway. Now to the outside goes Santos. The one issue that I've seen the drivers still deal with here, not only here, but also in Atlanta as well, they can get to the right rear quarter panel, but they just can't seem to be able to edge ahead on that top side coming off of a corner.
And Moskowitz is really who I'm going to be looking at here, because he's got the prime choice where he wants to follow the 24 on the high side, because the 24 could absolutely use that help to get by him. Or Moskowitz can easily tuck underneath the 91 and just make a run for it.
And Moskowitz, due to missing last week's race at Road America, dropped 5 spots in the standings down to 12th in points. He also has finished in the top 10 in every start he's made this season, the first 3 Speedway races of the year. As Santos, again, that side draft down the back straightaway, edged ahead for just a brief moment, but then the shorter way around the racetrack into turn 3 gives the advantage for Robert Maleska III.
And for all the guys at home who think that they're just riding beside each other because they want to, no. These guys are going about 215, 216 in these corners. They have no choice but to do this.
Tough break for 3rd in the points, Eric Schaus. Not certain what happened to him, but his number 72 came down pit road about 4 laps ago. Sits on pit lane getting damage repaired. Now trapped 4 laps down in the 25th position, so he'll take a hit in the standings heading into Phoenix next week. As still on that outside line, doggedly, is Victor Santos. And if you're that 3rd place car there of Moskowitz, how are you sizing up the competition? What lane is open to you in the closing stages, since you've got 1 car down there on the white line, 1 car in that middle line, and really no grip up in the 3rd lane?
Really, right now, you're looking at how you're going to make your move. You've got about 13 laps, 12 laps till you really have to make that move. So you're looking at, all right, if I start, I'll lag back a little bit. I'll try to run up to him, see how quickly I can run up to him, see how I can make that move. But there comes a certain time where you're just going to have to say, well, I'm going to have to kind of force the issue here.
Talk about force the issue. Up the middle, 3 wide, battle for the 6th position. Nick DeGroot, Nicholas Wanook. Also on the top side is Gale Brooks. They keep it 3 wide down the front straightaway, and that was a close clearance by the 1.
That was a self-clear.
Didn't even wait for the spotter. And don't forget that Nick DeGroot. Oh, we got a car possibly around back there. Oscar Gonzalez in the 11. Keeps it straight, now spins it down there in 3. Another car there on the inside line. Covey Moore, AJ Musselman. Caution is going to fly. Hard impact there for Gonzalez, who was trying to save it to avoid a caution coming out. Like he hasn't even been able to get that car refired. Covey Moore in the 15, I saw him down on the apron. He might actually, nope, he was involved. The whole rear wing is gone on his machine.
Michael Spell came over the radio and just said, I did not even see you. So I'm thinking he may have just overdrove into the corner, or maybe he just had such a closing rate where he didn't notice him.
And if that was Michael Spell in the 88, that would have been right up at the very tail end of the top 10 where this contact would have taken place. We'll go back and see what happened. I'm going to assume with how we saw the 11 trying to save it going into turn 3, this might have happened on the back straightaway, and indeed it did.
I can see it.
There's the American flag, number 88. Spell, he gets into Covey Moore. There you saw where 11 got clipped. Trying to make out who that other driver is. I think that was the 54 of AJ Musselman that also got put down into the inside wall on the back straightaway.
Man, that shows you how quickly these cars can close. I mean, Spell was going 208, and then you had Moore behind him doing 210. And even in a corner, you're not expecting someone to come right there.
This is going to set us up now for a restart with less than 10 to go. We're going to see about this impact here with Oscar Gonzalez. I mean, that car just lawn darted down to the inside wall, and he almost got through this. You're going to see he's barely going to get clipped right there by Corley, down to the inside wall, back up the track. Holy cow, someone get a pulse rate on the 77 of Benjamin Combs, because he was the one that 11 came right up across the nose of. Fortunately, he was able to get through it, but hard impact there for Oscar Gonzalez, and it looks like very much so a driver that finished in the top 5 at the last mile-and-a-half track. It's going to very unlikely finish in the top 20 here tonight.
To give you an update on the 72 machine that you were curious about before, it looks like the engine just expired, so possibly just some damage or a blown radiator or something of the sort, but definitely a tough break to his day.
And that will undoubtedly drop him in the point stands, because a lot of other drivers that he was battling in the same vicinity, Alex Van Desant, Craig Forsyth, Victor Santos, Charles T, they're all having very good runs here tonight. So we'll have to wait and see where the 72 finds himself going into the desert of Phoenix next week. Set him up here for less than 10 to go. Maleska the third, Victor Santos still the top 2, Dylan Moskowitz right there in third. That's Craig Forsyth and Alex Van Desant the top 5. But keep an eye on 6th place Nick DeGroot, because he restarted 16th on that last restart, cut his way up to 6th, and he is the highest with the freshest tires inside of the top 10. Most drivers up here have gone anywhere from 25 to 27 laps on their Firestones. He's only been out there for 18 laps on his tires, so you gotta wonder if that 7 to 8 lap advantage is going to help him here with however many laps we may have left in this race.
That's a man that is hungry. That is a man who wants that win. But if I was a 91 right now, I'd be chatting to the 24 saying, hey, I'm going to count you down where I'm going to go. Because here's the thing, if I can break away with the 24, I can at least get a good distance on Moskowitz where I don't have to worry, and I can just make the battle between me and the 24, where worst case, I come out second.
You talk about how hungry Nick DeGroot is. We talked about the fact last season, only 11 races on the schedule, and DeGroot won 5 of them. Eventually went on to win the championship. So far this season, 4 races in, has no trips to victory lane. We'll see if he can get it here, as it looks like with the lights out atop the pace truck, it will be 7 laps to go officially here in the HyperX 180. And again, we may not be done with cautions. The longest run that we've had was around the midway point. We ended up having a semi-cycle, I guess we'll call it, of green flag pit stops. A caution broke that up in the middle. Before that, we had spurts of about 10 laps before a caution came out. So we'll see if we can complete these final 7 laps under green flag conditions. Right up against that outside wall is Maleska the third, making sure no one gets a jump on him. Santos waiting. Maleska gets going, about maybe a car length and a half back to Santos. Santos still in the draft, as is Moskowitz. They're going to have a big run on Robert Maleska III coming down the back straightaway. Santos immediately jumps to the top.
Robert tried everything he could to just play games on that restart, but it just did not work. The draft is way too strong here.
And it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, that 3 and the 91, they're teammates. So does Moskowitz play some defense and not work with Victor Santos to make sure that at least one of the Twisted Trojan Motorsports cars goes to victory lane here at Texas?
Look at Forsyth. Where did Forsyth come from? And DeGroot's right behind him too.
Greg Forsyth knows a thing or two about making some aggressive moves. He went 4 wide back at Indianapolis in the season finale to eventually win that race. He crowds Moskowitz up, trying to take that third position. He will clear for it going into turn 1.
And it is go time now. Within about 4 laps to go here.
Dylan Moskowitz getting on the wrong side of the stick for this one. He was third. He's now back to 5th, about to lose that spot to Nick DeGroot. Santos and Maleska the third using up every bit of the racetrack on the back straightaway, slicing and dicing, making moves and blocking. Less than 5 to go. 4 now as they hit the stripe.
Man, DeGroot is trying everything he can trying to get past Forsyth here.
Pushes up a little bit there out of turn 2, does DeGroot. Now has to look back. Oh, Carhart in the wall back there. That was Van de Son. I think he's kept it straight. We're still green at this point in time as he keeps it out of the way of oncoming traffic. No caution. We remain under the green flag for the moment. 3 laps to go.
Looks like DeSant got a little bit of assistance from Brooks there.
Still no caution, though. See if the 317 can get at least back around to pit road. Oh! Victor Santos drove it deep there into 3. Almost gets into the left rear of the 91 of Maleska III, but that push-up cost him some track position. Now 0.2 of a second separation with 2 laps to go.
Man, just seeing this battle for the podium here, just the last podium spot is Craig Forsyth and Nick DeGroot. And those guys, they really should be working with each other, but man, they want this 3rd place.
Pablo Diaz-Francis, who won the last 1.5 mile track at Atlanta. He's trying to crack the top 5 here, trying to get around Dylan Moskowitz as the white flag is in the air. 1 lap to go. Robert Maleska III trying to get his 2nd straight wing. Victor Santos trying to get his 1st of the season. It's going to be the final 2 corners to decide this one. Car wrecking in the back. We still race to the checkers. That was Francis that wrecked on the back straightaway. As off turn 4, Robert Maleska III back-to-back as he wins the HyperX 180 at Texas Motor Speedway. What a start to the year for Robert Maleska III. 5 races, 5 poles, 2 trips to victory lane, and he will continue to grow his points lead here now, heading to Phoenix next week.
I admit that was a great effort out of Santos as well. I mean, on that last corner, you can just see a little bit of the hesitation. He was worried he was going to turn a little bit too deep on Robert, and he just pulled out, and unfortunately that's what cost him the win.
Yep, I agree with you. I saw that as well. When he got to the right rear, it's like he backed off a little bit there, moved up a little bit to give the 91 room, but sometimes when it comes down to the closing stage of a race, you can't be worried about that, but still going to be a good points day for Victor Santos nonetheless. Came in 5th in the points, so probably just kind of looking at the big picture here is I think Robert Maleska III trying to do his best Lightning McQueen impression here, trying to use the rearview mirrors to get to victory lane or something.
Forsyth and DeGroot were side by side the entire final lap.
And Forsyth was able to get that 3rd spot. He was able to edge DeGroot by, it looks like 46 1,000ths of a second coming to the start-finish line.
Forsyth came over the radio afterwards, just Man, just took a deep breath.
Take a look at the finishing results from this race. There it is. Robert Maleska the third, second straight week that he's also gone coast to coast, pole to win. He's done it now at a road course, and he's done it at a speedway. Santos in second, Forsyth in third. So those three great points days, all in the top 5 in points coming into this race. Nick DeGroot, fourth position. Obviously still not a win, but it's still early on in the season, too. The defending champ might still have something up his sleeve in the second half of this year. Dylan Moskowitz will complete the top 5. And how about some of these guys that kind of popped up in the top 10 late? Nicholas Winook, 6th. Charles Teed came back up into the top 10 to finish 7th. Charles Johnson, I don't think we mentioned him at all this race. He's going to get 8th. Gail Brooks with best finish of the season in 9th. And Bud Steele, we saw that car wreck back in the first 30 laps of this race. He's going to battle back for a top 10 finish.
And that just shows you the unpredictability of these these speedways. Just guys who, maybe they get into one instant, they've got that one fast pair to lean on, but these guys who just have the consistency, stay back in the pack, just keep your nose clean, they can get good finishes here.
A break there for Pablo Diaz-Francis. He was involved in that wreck on the back straightaway on the final lap. Ovi Moore, damaged machine, could not get himself up there any higher than 18th, but he finished the last car on the lead lap. And then from 19th on down are just drivers that either got involved in late race wrecks or got involved in early incidents to which they just couldn't come back from.
Paul Jennings had a bad day from the get-go, already a lap down on lap 2. And man, he was just fighting an uphill battle all day and unfortunately got taken out in an accident.
Drivers that are going to jump up in the point standings, as we already mentioned, Maleska and Matt Wagner, Craig Forsyth, Victor Santos. On the flip side, though, a lot of big names that were up in the top 10 in points, finishing outside the top 20. Van de Sant, after that incident that didn't bring out the caution, he's going to finish in 21st. He was 4th coming into this race in the point standings. Oscar Gonzalez, he's going to drop even further in the points out of 8th. He finished 24th, and Eric Schaus, as you mentioned, the mechanical problem, 26th. That's the driver that came in 3rd in the point standings. So no doubt about it, Texas Motor Speedway here tonight has shuffled up our point standings. It's going to look a lot different when we get to Phoenix next week.
Yeah, and David Leclerc was really one of the interesting instances. He really showed how dangerous this track was in 1 and 2, just over driving that corner.
Well, let's see if we can get some post-race interviews. It's been a while since we've talked with Craig Forsyth since his trip to Victory Lane, the Indianapolis 500 last season, but here tonight gets his first podium finish of the year. Craig, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
You betcha. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good, man. Crazy race there in the closing stages of this one, and we kind of saw your number 27 pop up there into the top 5 from out of nowhere in those final 10 laps or so. A lot of speed you had there late. Do you think if you'd been able to be up there in the vicinity of Maleska and Santos, you might have had something for your first victory of the season?
I mean, my qualifying was terrible. I screwed up both my laps and had to start from the back, and then I think George and I had to check up for some accident happened in front of us, and we both got passing under yellow penalties, so we had to go serve those and ended up 2 laps down, I think. But got lucky, got the lucky dogs when I needed them to get back onto the lead lap, and then had to fight our way up through the traffic. And then that last caution, or the last pit stop caution for fuel, happened exactly when we needed it. We'd stayed out long, which left us with only a few cars on the lead lap. I think we gained like 19 positions just like that. So that was great, which put us back where I feel we should have been all night. And I don't think I had the speed to get those top 2 guys. They were crazy. But as long as you had the draft, you could stay real close.
Craig, I have to ask you about that last lap battle. I mean, you were side by side the entire lap. Do you think you were going to get him at the line?
No. Nick had fresher tires than me, so I knew if I let him get the inside line, he was gone and off to the races and was going to probably pass the leaders too if he could. So I was defending that bottom line to save my life.
I heard the relief after you crossed the line. So.
Yeah, Craig, we already documented the fact that you guys had an 11 race schedule last season. You extended it now to 18 races this season. And we've really seen, if not the speedways, the 1.5 miles specifically, really play a huge factor into drivers gaining and losing spots in the standings. And it was the same here tonight. About half of the drivers in the top 10 in points getting good finishes, and the other half really struggling. How much more pressure does that put on you as a driver in a series where you have to remain consistent, accumulate the most points to win the championship week after week, when you head into these speedways, knowing that they're kind of wild card races in a sense?
Yeah, they're the most dangerous tracks for us because the most accidents happen on them because the cars are it's pack racing, everything's tight, and the track is small. So, got lucky. I had to blow my fast repair for that first thing, and then trying to be safe the entire rest of the race while still avoiding all the accidents and trying to get back up to the front was really tough.
Well, Craig, congratulations on your first podium finish of the season. This will undoubtedly keep you up in the top 5 in points as well, heading into Phoenix next week. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
I got to thank my team, lmcgear.com, lightweight motorcycle camping gear. Great sponsor. Jim's a great guy, good owner, and got good stuff on his website for all your motorcycle camping needs. I got to thank you guys over at FRN and the league sponsors, of course. Butt Kicker, SinSnap, Colby Moore. It's a good league. There's Lionheart gives us great setups to use, and over ESTV is broadcasting our stuff as well. So it's a good league. It's if you want to get in on the league or watch the league, we love our fans and the good set of drivers to drive with.
That's Craig Forsyth. He picks up his 4th top 10 of the season, 3rd top 5 here tonight in the HyperX 180 at Texas Motor Speedway. Congratulations, Craig. And it just seems like the consistency we're seeing out of this 27. We're going to be talking to you in Victory Lane pretty soon.
Oh, I hope so. You guys stay safe.
And now let's see if we can get a word with Victor Santos. He's only made 2 starts this season, but both of them have been 4th place finishes. Tonight he gets his best finish of the season, runner-up, 2nd place.
There we go.
Hey, Victor, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us? Okay, looks like we don't have Victor right at the moment. We're going to see if we can get in contact with him.
Let's see here.
Gonna see here. He might currently not be available just at the moment. If we're not able to get in touch with him just yet, we may end up seeing if we can get down to Victory Lane to talk with Robert Maleska III. But Santos made his only 2 starts of the season at both the Atlanta and Auto Club racetrack. So obviously very good at the bigger speedways. Finished 4th, as we mentioned, at both of those tracks. And
got to get his translator in here. 1 moment.
Alrighty. So as we're waiting for that, just want to remind everybody that up next tomorrow night on FRN, we've got the RTG Talladega Challenge, race 5 of 15. It's the midway point of the regular season for these drivers. And they will be at Talladega Superspeedway. As so far this season, we've had 4 races, 4 different winners. The playoff grid is quickly starting to pile up. And flag's going to fly tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And see if we can, we're going to see if we can get Victor's translator in here real quick. So just bear with us. It looks like we are going to be getting that in the works here. Also, going to be getting underway momentarily, I do believe it may actually be going on right now, is the SARG Super Speedway Series. Michael Norman, Tyler Riggs having the call on that. So be sure to tune in to that here this evening as Flat Out Racing Network brings you a double feature here on Wednesday evening. So should be a good one. That kind of a race, a wild card race as well, a super speedway series, and should be a good one. So just stay with us here, folks. We are trying to attempt to get our 2nd place finisher, Victor Santos. as we are waiting for the opportunity to be able to get his translator in here as well to be able to conduct this interview. And then we will be going down to Victory Lane to talk with Robert Maleska III. Let's talk about next week. Phoenix is where we're going to be at. And I gotta think that if we're going to try and look at a track these drivers have been to so far this season to kind of replicate what type of racing we'll see, you probably have to go back to Iowa. Phoenix is just a little bit over a mile in length. Not a whole lot of banking, a lot of slipping and sliding, and it's going to be very close quarter racing as well. Could be interesting to see which line's the preferred line there as well, because I would assume it would be the inside line, but these drivers carry so much speed into the corners. I almost wonder if maybe that middle line, maybe the outside line is going to be viable for those drivers in that one. That's going to be a crazy race. You're going to want to tune into that one. That's going to be next week. Green flag will be scheduled to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as looks like we do indeed now have our second place finisher, Victor Santos. Victor, it's Matt and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
Hello, everyone.
Well, Victor, man, we talked about your numbers coming into this race at the Speedways. You had 2 fourth-place finishes, but here tonight, second place, and you in the 91 were duking it out all night long. What little more did you need to get around and get your first win of the season?
Básicamente te dijo que llevas unas cuantas, llevas unos 4 segundos lugares en los óvalos. ¿Qué necesitarías más para conseguir la victoria?
Bueno, Robert Maleska es el tío a batir, es el conductor a batir y el que tengo que superar. Pues nada, intentar hacerlo lo mejor posible en todas las carreras que faltan.
He said that he need to do his best and try to beat Maleska because it's so difficult.
So I've got to ask, coming in down to the final lap on turn 3, we noticed you started to turn in almost like you were gonna dive the 91, and you kind of got right to his right rear tire and almost pulled away. Were you afraid you're gonna hit him or afraid you're gonna hook him?
Te dice que justo en la última vuelta, al final, en la curva 3, que has como girado hacia adentro, que casi te lo cargas básicamente. ¿Y qué pensabas ahí o qué pensabas hacer?
Voy a intentarlo hacer yo en inglés barrullero, ¿vale? Si ves que no, pues me cortas y lo haces. Okay, in the turn 3, I'm gonna try to speak in English, but I'm sorry, it's not.
Oh, no worries.
So,
no worries.
So, in the turn 3, I have many options to take the P1. So, I tried to get the inside. I'm waiting for he opened your car to the outside, go to the outside and take the inside, but was so risky, man. So I tried, but no lo conseguí. I don't get it. That's so difficult and so risky.
I understand it. Definitely a smart move not to turn down, and I don't think you would have hit him, but I mean, better, I guess, safe than sorry. I mean, you're going to have another shot at one of these wins.
Básicamente dijo que gracias a Dios que fue un movimiento inteligente no girar y no matarte, pero que en algún momento vas a tener alguna victoria.
Ojalá sea así. De todas maneras, hay conductores. There are here in this competition very good driver, and was so difficult make a victory in here in Dark Horse.
Well, Victor, a great run for you here tonight, though. Keeps you up there in the point standings. As Matt said, I think it's going to not be too long with the number of speedways that are still out here. We're going to see that 24 in Victory Lane. Anybody here tonight you'd like to shout out or say thank you to?
Que con la cantidad de speedways que quedan, que no dudan que podrás estar en que el número 24 esté de primero en algún momento y que se le quieres dar las gracias a alguien o quieres decir algo a alguien.
Sí. I need to say the first, my apologies to Dylan Moskovitz, because there is one netcode. I'm so sorry, man. And obviously my chat, my streaming, they are always support me, and I can do it without them. So thank you so much.
Victor Santos gets his third top 5 of the season, remains in the top 5 in the points. Congrats, Victor, on a great run here tonight. We look forward to seeing you next week at Phoenix.
Que te esperan ver el fin de semana que en Phoenix. El siguiente fin de semana.
Me too, I hope. Thanks, admin. Thanks for retransmission, and see you in the next time.
And let's now see if we can go down to victory lane for the second straight week. We're going to be talking with a driver that goes coast to coast, pole to win. Last week it was a road course. Tonight it's a 1.5 miles. Let's see if we can get Robert Maliska the third. Robert, it's Matt and Seth up here in the Flat Racing Network Studios. You got us?
There we go. Sorry,
right.
I got you.
There we go. We got him. Man, Robert, I mean, the pace you've been on this season so far has been incredible. 5 straight pole positions. We saw you finally crack victory lane last week at the road course. We know you've been consistent at the speedways, but you finally get one here as well, a speedway win. 5 races in, you're the only driver that's got multiple wins this season. So, obviously it feels like the momentum is definitely in your corner. So how much more nervous does it make you going into more of these speedway races coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think next week is Phoenix. I'm pretty sure I have a pretty good chance there. It's one of my stronger tracks, but I'm really worried about Motegi. I don't have many laps there at all. I think I've ran maybe 3 races of Indy Fixed. So if there's a track that I'm not going to get pole or win, it's going to be Motegi. I'm pretty sure I'm going to struggle there.
I've got to ask on that final restart. I almost noticed that you were kind of waiting at least to go. Were you hoping that would kind of stack up the 24 a little bit, give you a little bit more extra room, or was
yeah?
That
So the 2 restarts before that, I was going too quick actually, and down the back, Victor was getting a really good run, and I was thinking that if a caution gets just times right when he gets the lead going into 3, even though he's only like a nose ahead, that can just change the race for me. So if I went half throttle there for about like a second and a half, and then he couldn't get that big run down the back and maybe get a lucky caution.
Talking about that 24 Victor Santos, if we go back to around the midway portion of the race, the 2 of you came down pit road. You were back in the mid-pack area, worked your way up into the 8th and 9th positions, and you guys looked like you were battling for the race lead at the time, which eventually it translated you guys were. Was that the mentality for the 2 of you, kind of realizing, hey, the 2 of us are kind of on equal footing right now in terms of speed, and even though right now we're not up in the race lead, it's more than likely going to come down between the 2 of us, so let's kind of take some notes on the competition while we have the chance.
Yeah, basically just right what you said there. I knew the few runs before that, it seemed like the cautions weren't really big wrecks per se. So I knew every chance we got, there was a chance, that run could go a full fuel stint, in which it did. So I was telling Victor on voice chat, just like, let's just work together here once it was just the 2 of us. And I think someone else, but so we were actually working together there and just kind of riding, saving fuel each of us, because it would be close on a 1 stop. And when those guys pit, I was dead sideways because that caution, they took tires, I only took fuel just to get some track position. And luckily, with I think 3 laps of spare, we got a good yellow, which gave us the separation we needed to the other quick guys in the field.
Well, Robert, I mean, like I said, what a start to the year. We're going to be really looking forward to seeing if you can maybe keep this pole streak up. You're up to 5 right now. You got Phoenix coming up next week. We'll see if you can increase that to 6. And now a back-to-back winner as well here in the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. We'll see if you can maybe make it 3 in a row, but tremendous job on what you've been able to do in these first 5 races. We're now going to turn the microphone over to you, let you do some victory lane shout-outs.
Yeah, big thanks to Dylan. We caught that caution with 35 to go, and we were first and fourth. So every yellow, we were just talking all the time, and I think without us working together there, it would have been kind of hard to maintain a good, top 5 finish for both of us.
Robert Maleska III, back-to-back winner here after Road America. He doubles down in the Hyper X 180 at Texas Motor Speedway. Congratulations there, Robert. Go enjoy your victory, and we look forward to seeing if maybe you can make it 3 in a row when we get to the desert next week.
Yeah, plan on talking to you guys next week.
And so as Robert continues to celebrate his victory, I mean, it's almost kind of seeming like he's the fire and everybody else has got to be the fireman here, Matt. I mean, 2 wins, 5 poles. He's shown he's been fast everywhere that they go. Sooner or later, you get the feeling that he's going to hit a bump in the road, but the question is where. He mentioned about twin ring Motegi, but I'm not even certain that there's going to be a problem for him. It just kind of seems like when a driver is on a momentum streak like he is, things just seem to go right.
That is a very interesting point what you bring up, because right now we're in race 5 of 18. We're not even halfway through the season, but this is really that time where you really got to start evaluating yourself. Is like, hey, is my season going the way I want it to? In the case of Robert, of course, yeah, I'm class the field. I'm perfect here. All I got to do is keep this up. But if I'm kind of back in the pack and I've been marred in accidents, even if it wasn't of my own doing, it's like, man, I've got to kind of evaluate my program, evaluate what I'm doing, evaluate what I can do differently. So that's going to be the big going forward point off of this.
And the thing of it is, too, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but Robert's qualified on the pole in the last 5 races. He's been up there with good starting track position. That's why he's been able to avoid those wrecks. Well, if you look back at Auto Club, if you look back at Atlanta, and look here tonight, he spent times in the midway portion of the field and had to work his way through the traffic. And so there's no saying that he definitely didn't have to keep his nose clean and keep himself away from where those wrecks may have taken place, because they happened, as you mentioned, back during the, when we were under race conditions. They happened at the front, they happened in the middle, they happened at the back. They always seem to happen in the most unpredictable places in the field. So he's definitely done a great job of positioning himself to be able to get himself up there into the hunt each and every week. And now we'll be heading into Phoenix as the only multi-time winner so far in Season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. But a wild one here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. We saw early cautions, had a long green flag run, finished off with a couple of cautions, but a great battle to the stripe between Robert Maleska III and Victor Santos. Maleska III taking that checkered flag here tonight in the Lone Star State. Matt, it's been a great one here tonight. We're finally done here with Texas. Looking forward next week to Phoenix. Appreciate you being in the booth with me.
Yeah, maybe I'll do it again. I don't know.
Thanks to everyone that tuned in here tonight. We hope you enjoyed our coverage. Again, be sure to tune in as we're double featuring here tonight. Sark Super Speedway Series here tonight as well. Michael Norman and Tyler Riggs having the call there as they get their season closer and closer towards the playoffs. But for Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Tune in next week as we'll have the green flag for you Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at Phoenix for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. Have a great rest of your night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.